Alright, so we're going to start modeling a hand. So I went to Google, hand reference, found this image. I'm going to save it into my 2520 work. I don't have a hand folder yet, so I'm just going to jump into Maya. I'm going to make a new project. So I go to Project Window, New, Hand, Sarcona. There it is. And go to source images and just save this as male hand reference, whatever. Okay. Obviously, you can grab other hand ones, but you want to find one that has lots of good images of it. Like drawings are not good because it's a drawing. You want to grab actual photo reference. Here's another one that could be good. This one is pretty nice because it's up close. Okay, so find good reference. So now we're going to go into the top view and we're going to load in that image. Okay. Now I don't actually want to go into my top view to do this. I want to make a new top view and load it in there. So panels, orthographic, new, top view. So now I'm in the top one, view, image plane, import image. Grab my male hand reference. And the reason I'm using a new top view is because when you have an image plane loaded directly into your regular top view, it can actually bog your system down. I don't know why, it just does. But if you have it in a separate camera, it doesn't seem to have that issue. Alright, so Maya did not like that image, probably because it's huge. It was a pretty large image. If I can get to that, no, whatever. So what I did was I brought it into Photoshop and just cropped it. So I have, here's the tops, and then here's the side. Okay. And then I'm also going to shrink these down to a reasonable size. This is 2800 pixels. And this one is it's 5000 pixels. That one's still too big. So let me make this one 2500 pixels. Okay. And you can see how close I can get to this and still have detail. Alright, so that should be plenty good. Typically anything over, a huge size, I'll even make this one 2048. It's just going to slow Maya down. Alright, so now let's go back into our project. Let's go back into our new top view, so orthographic, new, top, view, image plane, import, and then I'll go to the hands top. And it jumps right in, you can see that's what we want. Okay, now if I jump back to perspective, the image is way up here. Okay, so I'm going to go into my image plane shape. If I deselect it, I can always re-grab this and go down to, oops, there we go. I have to marquee the image plane. And then go down to depth and just increase this depth, which should be actually updating the image. It's not. Come on. Alright, I can just move it. Okay, in previous versions you actually had to go to the depth and adjust it, but apparently not. They've changed it. Alright, so there's my hands below the grid. You always want them below the grid. Okay, if it's on the grid or above the grid, when you switch to an actual top view, you won't be able to see your hands. The actual model of the hands. Okay, so now that we have that, I can switch to the top view. And I want it rotated around too. It's just a picky choice of mine. So I'm just going to rotate it 180 degrees. There we go. That looks better. Okay, so I'm going to use this one as my main reference. So I'm also going to just kind of pull this over so that my middle finger is about at the grid area, my black area right here. Okay, so there's multiple ways to start this, just like everything else we do. I'm going to start off with a cube. And I'm just going to resize this to fit the basic hand structure right here. Okay. Now I'm imagining a cut line right here. All right. And this, I need to pull that back a little bit more. Looking at the knuckles, I want to get this kind of in line with the knuckles. Okay. So I can also go to perspective view and just make sure I have basically the same height. Now I could go into my side view, orthographic, new, right side, and go to import the image in here that I have of my side view. Okay. Now I have to make sure that these things kind of match. So if I look here, let me scoot this down, make sure I can still see it. I can. The hand size on these is bigger than the hand size there. So I just need to make sure that everything is kind of synced up the way it needs to be synced up. So if I go to my side view, I know that this width right here is how big my hand is. So if I scale this down and I fit the hand roughly there, that should be good there. Okay. So then I can adjust this also in the vertical direction like that. Okay. Now I'm not adjusting the direction here because I already have that set with the top view. Now I may adjust it this way a little bit just because this point is underneath. I can't see that in the top view. Okay. So now that we have this, then we can start adding some divisions. So I'm just going to go to Insert Edge Loop. And I need to create, if I look at the top view here, I'm going to pull out a face for this finger, a face for this finger, a face for that finger, and a face for this finger. Okay? And I'm also going to have a little webbing between each one of these. So what I want to do is divide this thing 1, 2, 3 times. So I'm going to double click my tool, multiple edge loops, 3 divisions, and now I have a line for each one of the fingers. Okay, and then what I can do is take these and just do a little bevel on it to give me a little bit of thickness. And then I'm going to start to round this off. So if you look at your own hand, this actually looks like it might be a little bit thicker because if we look at this image that we're looking at, it's actually, this hand is rounded. Okay, it's not perfectly like straight across. So I want to come in here and grab these points here and pull them up. And pull these up. Pull these up. Okay, and the same thing on this, I'm going to pull these down. So something like that is how the rough hand shape is going to be. Okay, and then even these little guys, these should also be adjusted as well to help kind of keep the flow of the surface going. And then in the back, I want to do the same thing. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this down, pull this down, something like that is what I'm after at this stage. And it's very important to make sure that you go through and make sure that everything's kind of flowing correctly, because even a single point out of place now can really cause you a lot of trouble later. Okay, so I'm constantly going through and looking at this from different angles to make sure that I'm hitting this the correct way. That should be good for now. Okay. So now I can go through and grab these faces and just extrude. Click the right buttons, go to extrude that face out. So I go back to my top view. I'm just going to switch to the move tool and just pull these out. Okay, and I'm just going to pull it out as far as they should go. I'm going to grab the vertices and just manually move the vertices to the tip of this finger. Grab the vertices for that middle finger and move those to the tip. Grab the vertices for the pinky, because the ring finger is kind of in the way. And that one. Okay. Now we can also see that I have this webbing that's going to be happening here, and I have these knuckles I have to also include. So I'm also going to be moving this a little bit further up too. This shouldn't be a straight line across. This should actually be pulled up like this, that, and over a little bit. This should be up like this, a little bit over. This should be up like this and a little bit over. Okay, and obviously the pinky is going to be scaled down some, so I can just adjust those points now, but I'm not going to spend too much time on those because I'm actually going to model just one finger, and duplicate it to the rest of them. Okay, just so I get this roughed in is all I'm doing right now. Okay. All right, so now we have basically a really rough hand. Okay. So I'm going to model one of the fingers, and then we'll pop it back on. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my top view. Top view. There we go. I'm going to grab the, I'll try to go with the middle size. Okay, so this is basically the middle size. This is the small one, the ring finger, and this one is about the same. And then this is the big one, so I go with the middle size. So I'm going to grab that and say mesh extract. And that's going to pull it off the surface. And if I go to isolate, you see my image plane goes away too. So I want to make sure that I isolate this and my image plane. So now I can see both of these, and I can focus my efforts on just modeling one good finger and then setting that up for the rest of it. Okay. So I'm going to go into my edit mesh, insert edge loop, make sure I reset my settings. And I'm going to put a division here. This is for the webbing. I'm going to put a division here for the knuckle. I'm going to put a division here for that knuckle. Okay. And then I can go into this, and this is where I'm at. Okay, now it's sideways because we're on an angle. So it'll be a little bit awkward, but it shouldn't be fine because we're not going to be working on it for terribly too long. So I'm going to go into vertices and just grab the vertices and just scoot these over and scoot these over and just try to get this to fit. And this is going to be the webbing, so this is actually going to come out a little bit more. There we go. So there's the basic shape of the finger. And we can also go to the side view, and I didn't add the side view in here, but I can always go to my outliner, grab my second image plane, and go to show, isolate select, add selected object. Okay. So now I'll have this in here. Now you can see in here, obviously this is not lined up right, so I'm going to go and move this down. Oops. Move that down. And I could actually use this one and just rotate it or scale it. Let's see if it'll let me scale it. I think that worked. So I have to make sure that I scale it perfectly in negative direction. Okay, and I can even rotate it a little bit to get that angle, or I can just start moving these until it's lined up with that. I think I like the moving method better. Oops. And I still need to get a little bit more lining up on that. And I can't see the other side, so I just have to kind of imagine, where those points would be at. Okay, so there's our finger right now, and obviously it looks a little funky, but if we hit 3, you can see how it's going to start looking more like a finger. Okay, especially once we start adding some of this extra detail. Alright, so I can look at this and see, okay, do I like the way this is looking? Do I want to adjust anything now that I can see what the whole shape is doing? And I'm just going through and just tweaking some of these points just to kind of help adjust the evenness of it. Because if we adjust things in the front view and the top view, or side view and top view, we can actually get a little bit of flattening done to our object. Okay, so I may move this point up too. Let's up. There we go. Okay, so that's a good spot there. Okay, so now this area is a knuckle, this area is a knuckle, this hand is our webbing right here. So where these knuckles happen, I'm just going to double click those and I'm going to add a bevel to them. And I'm simply adding a bevel just so I can get some divisions there. Okay, and I want 2 divisions on those. So I should have 3 lines for each knuckle. I lost my surface shader here, so I'm just going to go to assign my default Lambert to it. And then I'm just going to tweak these settings for this. So I'm just going to go grab the edge, and I'm going to grab this edge, and I'm just going to pull it back and pull it up. Grab this edge, pull it back. Oops, I don't want to pull that up. Pull it down. I'm going to pull this one up, like that. Okay, so pulling this back, pull this one up. There we go. So now if I hit 3, you can see how we're getting more of that knuckly kind of shape to it. All right, now I need to add some more roundness to this thing. It's not really getting into the round shape of it right now. It's just kind of just really blocky. Even when I do this, you can see that there's more of like an oblong than a roundness. Okay, and our hand, our fingers actually, are more of not really good drawer with the mouse, but they're more of this kind of shape where it dips down, you know, something like that. Okay, not. I think I've used Photoshop before. There we go. Something more along those lines is what our hand, our finger would look like. So it's flatter on top, and then we dip down a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to add in a couple divisions. Insert edge loop. I'm going to put one here. I'm going to put it pretty close to the top. I'm going to put one here, right down the middle. Okay, and if I go to my split ring, I can verify that it is definitely in the middle. Okay, so now if I hit 3, you see we're at basically a little bit closer to stage. All right, I still need to go through and tweak it. So I'm going to grab this edge all the way back here. So I shift, double click that, and that'll select this line straight back. And then I can pull this down. And then I can go through here and kind of bulge out some of these areas. Okay, so now we're getting a bit closer. I'm going to take these here, part of my knuckles. I'm just going to scale those out. I don't want to scale them out that way, I just want to scale them out that way. Okay. Now I also want to create the little crease that's underneath the finger. So I'm going to grab the edges that are under here. And I'm just going to pull these closer together. And I'm just doing that by scaling and a little bit of rotate. You could do it by moving also. I think in this case actually, because of the angle, I'm going to just move them. I'm just moving them closer to that point. And then I can grab this edge right here and just nudge that in. Okay, and do the same thing on this side. Just pulling these ones closer in. So they're closer in on the bottom and they're further apart on top. So now I hit 3. You can see we're getting a little bit closer. We're going to need to tweak some of these points still. So I think probably these here, this clustering probably needs to come in a little bit. Okay, and I think that these points right in the center of the knuckle probably need to come up. And then maybe these points that I've scaled out maybe went out a little bit too far. Same thing here. I'm going to take these guys in a little bit more. Take this one up a little bit. Okay. All right. I think I'm at a good stage here. Should probably save my work. I'm going to add in some more divisions, one in each one of these areas. And this is just a rough spotting. Okay, nothing specific there. And then I'm going to grab the points here and just pull them down. That's going to give me a little bit more bulge in the bottom of my finger. So now I hit 3. And you can see the kind of finger that we have right here. Okay. And I probably could space these things out a little bit further. Pull this back. Now a little trick, I want to pull it back basically in this angle. If I go to my move tool, sometimes you can hit on the right option that'll let you do exactly that. Okay. In this case, I'm not hitting it, but if I go to something like set to edge, and I click on this edge, sometimes, not today apparently, sometimes they'll actually do it the correct way. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it at world, I guess, and just manually kind of position this thing. Grab both of these. Okay, and I also want to go and make this a little bit more rounded. So I'm actually going to grab this point, and a little trick I can do on a single point is that I can hold down C and middle drag it along here. Okay, this area is going to be a little bit trickier because I have my arrows in the way. So I have to zoom in and then do it. There we go. Okay, so let me do that back here too. Click on the point, hold down C, middle drag along that curve. Hold down C, middle drag along that curve. Okay, now if it helps you as you're working, you may want to just keep an eye on a hand wireframe. So sometimes I'll do this, is I'll pull up just a wireframe that someone else has created for what a hand should look like, and then you get an idea of where their detail is. So if you look at this, you can see where the knuckles are, you can see where the knuckles are back here, and you can see how they've kind of lined up some of their stuff. Now this one actually has a triangle in here, which is a no-no. So let me go to images and see if I can find a better one. That one looks good. I do see a couple triangles though. And some of these might not even be triangles. It might just be just the angle we're seeing it looks like there's a triangle. All right. So sometimes it helps just to kind of look at these things and see, you know, how someone else has created this. This one actually looks like it might be a good one. There's some n-gons in here, so all right. But you get an idea of what other people are doing. So that looks like a pretty decent finger. It looks like I'm a little bit over to one side, so I may want to grab some of these points down the middle and just adjust them over to this side. And grab some of these points down on this side. Just kind of push those over as well. And that's just something that happens as we're working with this, is that we, you know, seem to flatten out in some areas. There we go. All right, so that looks like a pretty nice finger. We can go to the top view and just take a look at our finger that we have here and that one. Okay, obviously we've moved away from the image, but for proportions, we've kind of gotten the look of it. And Maya's about to crash. Yep, there we go. So we'll reopen Maya, reset our project, and reopen it. Okay, and it undoes my isolate select, so I can just grab this and re-isolate that. And then I can look at this and see, okay, I was at this point of inserting edge loops. And then grabbing the bottom points and just pulling them down a little bit. And then going into the side-ish view, or the front view here, and just pulling these points over some. And then, wow, I really did a lot in 4 minutes. That's the last time it saved. So let's go and slide this. And you can see once you've done this, the process is going to become basically second nature. Just kind of going in here and tweaking these settings. So it's good. Let's go to the top view again. And this is where it crashed last time. I just grabbed this and moved it. Let's save this time. Let's switch back. Okay, so there's my basic finger. I could still tweak it some. I do need a nail on here. I don't have a nail yet. Okay, so I'm going to go to the top view, and we'll see the nail is kind of coming in like this. All right, so if we look at this, and I grab these faces here, and then go to the top view, you can see I actually need a little bit less nail. So I'm going to go and insert another edge loop here. Okay, now if it does bad things, then I'll undo it, but I think that'll be fine. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so now let me go back to the top view. Oops. I essentially have that where the nail is at. I can tweak the shape slightly, just kind of pull some of these points back here. That should be good. Okay. So now I have this. So what I'm going to do is, this is just a little tricky thing to do, is I'm going to extrude this, and I'm just going to scale it in and push it down. And then I can extrude it again and pull it up. And then what I can do further is grab these faces, extrude again, and pull that out. Okay, now that looks funky, it looks like the nail is just sitting on top. So what I can do at this point is grab the vertices around it and just tweak them until I get it to look like the nail is sitting inside there. So let me grab these edge ones and stick those in. Make sure I hit the right buttons. Okay, so already those look like they're sitting inside the finger instead of outside. Pull this up. Pull this up. Okay, and you can see where we're getting that nail shape. Okay, now you can define that further if you wanted to have it, come back in, but I think that's going to be sufficient to create just a nice little nail. I'm going to pull this down a little bit and in. You'll find that as you go, you're just going to start tweaking and tweaking and tweaking stuff. There we go. If we wanted longer nails, we could take the faces here, right there and there, and we could extrude it. We might be able to just pull it out, but I think I want to extrude it. And there we go. Okay, not the kind of nails I want on my character, but obviously we have our options there. Okay, so there our finger is basically done. I'll go to the top view, just look at it one more time, go to wireframe, maybe I'll thin out this side a little bit more. Looks like this whole side might just be a little bit too thick. I'm just going to pull that in. Remember, this is reference. It's not model this thing exact. And then I'm going to look at it one more time in 3D just to make sure I have everything the way I want it to. I think I want to still come over with that middle line a little bit. I don't think I redid that. There we go. Okay. So that looks good there with that finger. So I'm going to un-isolate select. See how much detail we just put into that just by adding a few divisions. I'm going to delete these extra faces here for the other fingers. And what I need to do is I need to attach this onto here. Okay? In order to attach it, I need to make sure that all the divisions line up. I'm actually going to make this a tiny bit bigger because my finger is actually a little bit bigger on that side. There we go. Okay, so if I want this and this to connect together, there has to be the same amount of divisions. So if I turn on Wireframe, I can see the divisions, and I can see where I need to add divisions. So I'm just going to click on that and go to Insert Edge Loop. Click a division here, because I need one there. And it also puts one on the bottom, which is where I need one. I'm going to need one right here. And I'm going to need one right there. Okay. Now if I attach this over here, I'm also going to need one here and there. Okay. And I'll also need one here and here and there. Okay, so I can take this now and I can center pivot it. I can duplicate it and bring it over here to the middle finger. Okay, it's obviously not lining up perfectly, but again, I can go in here and just tweak some stuff. I know I need to rotate it because it's twisted, and my middle finger is not twisted. It's actually the correct way. Okay, now as I do this, it actually flattens out terribly, and that's just a result of because this thing is inside of a group, and the group has been scaled, it's updating that grouping scaling. So I just unparent it, Shift P, and then I can rotate it, and I don't have any issues. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate this kind of into position. There we go. And then I'm going to tweak my lines just so that they match correctly. There we go. And duplicate this, scoot it over here, rotate it for that finger. And I think I may even negative scale this one. So I'm just going to go in the red direction and negative scale it. So seeing that this finger might just be rotated, obviously the other way. Okay, so I'm just repositioning these vertically as well to get them lined up. I'm just adjusting my image scale just to kind of fit those fingers into those slots. Just make sure everything's proportionate still. And duplicate that one. Rotate it, scale it down. There we go. Okay. So now we have our 4 fingers right here. So now we can attach them. Okay, I'm going to leave a little bit of room, like that. Okay, I'm going to grab all of these, go to Mesh, Combine. There they are. And then I'm just going to attach them in here. Let me hit 3. Okay, just making sure everything's good. So now what I'm going to do is go to Edit Mesh, and there is a Merge Vertex tool. So what this is going to allow me to do is click on this vertex, drag it to this one, and it'll merge them. So I'm just dragging the ones from the palm onto here to match them up. Now you may have to go inside the hand. It's going to be a little bit tricky in some of these areas. Okay. Undo that. I'm going to skip that one and come back to it. And jump to the other side. And I will have to adjust after I'm done with this. I'm going to have to go back and adjust some of these points just because of where these transitions are happening. It's not going to be the friendliest method. Or the cleanest method of merging this stuff together. If I hit 3, sometimes that'll actually help see some of the stuff where I need to connect. Sometimes I physically need to go into the move tool and move a division over so I can see what needs to connect to what. And see, I have the ring finger kind of poking through, so I have to just be careful I don't merge the ring finger with that one. The ring finger needs to merge to his own. Just right there. Okay, now I'm going to go back to object mode and just kind of rearrange some of these things. Oops, I can get that one to still. Yeah. I'm just going to rearrange some of these things so I can get a better idea of where these things are at. So I'm just going to grab vertices here, and just kind of spread them apart. There we go. So these guys can merge together. Okay, there's some overlapping there, which is fixable. Okay, so I think I have it all. Okay, so if I hit 3, I have some funkiness happening right here. I think I missed merging. Yes, I did. This is where it just gets tricky because you have to kind of go inside and try to make sense of all the stuff that you're seeing. Okay, so that looks like we're good there. All right, so now let's turn off this reference for a minute. I'm just going to hide it. Okay, let's turn off our wireframe. Turn off this reference. All right, I'm going to turn off our wireframe unshaded so we can see this. Okay, so overall it looks pretty nice. We do have, if you look at our hand here, it looks pretty flat, and this looks pretty bumpy. Okay, so we need to isolate some of these things so that this doesn't trail back into the hand. So I'm going to go to Insert Edge Loop. I'm going to put an edge loop pretty close up here. And what this is going to do is just kind of hold the shape of this so it doesn't carry back too much. And then I'm just going to move these vertices. Actually, I can do this. There's a slide edge tool under Edit Mesh. Slide edge tool. So I can slide this, oops, middle mouse button, slide this up here. I'm going to hold that a little bit closer. Okay, and I'm going to insert another edge loop right about here. Okay, now we're still getting some of this banding in here just because of where we inserted it. It was already there. Okay, so I'm going to go in with the Mesh Sculpt Geometry tool, and just delicately, I'm going to go in with this pull and make sure Auto Smooth is on. So what this is going to do is it's going to pull up the vertices and then smooth them out. Okay, if I just put smooth on, what happens is it flattens it out more. So I'm just pulling this up and smoothing it out. I find a little bit more smoothing on there. There we go. Okay. I'm just getting rid of that puckering that's happening in there. If I hold down M, I can change the maximum displacement, which is how much it's going to try to move. If I hold down B and drag, it's going to be the brush size. So I'm just going to play with these settings until I get something that looks good. Oops. There we go. And sometimes I'm just hitting right on those vertices that are being pushed down. There we go. Okay, and the same thing on the back. You can see we've got basically a blocky situation here. I'm going to turn my maximum displacement down and just kind of go over some of these areas. Okay, and this just helps kind of smooth things out. And that's really the reason we're using this, is to kind of help smooth things out overall. There we go. That's good. Okay. All right, so let's stop there for now, and then we'll come back and do the thumb. We can probably smooth out some of these other areas too while we're doing this. Okay, so I'm going to work on this a little bit more, just kind of retouching some of these areas. And then we'll do the thumb, and we'll finish up the hand. Too much? Yeah, be delicate with it. And then we'll kind of wrap this project up, because it's not going to be a terribly long one. Okay?